Well, how do you guys, as songwriters and composers, look at your roles in the filmmaking process?
Like what you said, you're serving the movie.
Mhm.
That's your first job. You're serving the story.
Mhm.
And if you're lucky, you create something for that lives beyond that.
Mhm.
That's how I look at it.
I would agree. Maybe to surprise yourself too, and surprise the film, what you can bring, spark, picture and sound is,
Mhm.
not always the most obvious route and stuff.
Mhm.
I find that my role often is psychiatrist, stand-up comic, food orderer. There's a camaraderie, I think, that when you're digging in and you're in the trenches and everyone's just working hard and it's a blur, something really cool happens and you go like, wow, we're all pulling all-nighters. I'm sure we're doing something great, I hope. And I like that thing. Even though it's brutal, I like that feeling. I think it actually draws me in every time.
Do you guys think a movie is ever complete without music?
I mean, I'm still new to this, but fuck no, right? I mean,
No.
I'm sure there's been movies without music before, but I'm not a lot. I mean,
What about Mother? Did anyone see that?
It didn't have a score.
But it was like creatively absent of score.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool
Mhm.
like loophole in that.
I think music's everywhere though. I mean, you
It's
can't
important.
even go to the grocery store without music. So I feel like, of course, there are amazing examples of films with no music, but I feel
Turn the
like
sound off and take me. I think Quincy said something like that one time about that, like watch a movie with no music and see how that affects you. It's so important. It's like another character.
and it's the
And one that
universal
you don't
language.
even know is there.
It's the universal language, so
Yeah.
it can enhance emotion. I think better than almost anything. That's why music's everywhere.
No Country for Old Men.
Oh yeah.
It can happen, and I think I love it when I'm working with a filmmaker and that's their, they try really hard not to temp and they try to turn over a cut without music. We're so used to temps now as composers and sort of this sort of outlining guideline, which can be helpful especially in time crunch. But when you get a movie turned over to you and there's nothing there and it's like, holy moly, that's the way they used to do movies. That's like until very recently, like last 15, 20 years. So I do think there's something to be said for a movie that can stand on its own without music, and then the music just doesn't break it and hopefully makes it better.
The temp conversation though is really interesting because even as just a songwriter, because I've gone in for a lot of movies and I don't always write the right song for it, but there's always a temp in the scene, and it does make it really difficult because it's really tough because the whole team involved has been watching this scene, editing this scene, and working on the scene for months with this song, normally a very famous song.
It's like that's the vibe they want.
Already in there. And so it's like I've started to do tricks where I write the song. You can't copy it, of course, because that's illegal and tacky. But but I'll like at least try to get near the same tempo and at least use some of the same instrumentation because these people have for so long they've heard a song in that space. But I have found that I write the best stuff for movies when there isn't a temp there. And Klaus, there was no temp there. It was just completely based on the story and the conversation with the director.
A lot of people, when they work, they listen to music, but you guys can't really do that because you're actually writing music. But do you have like a go-to song you listen to before you like get down to it?
I mean, not right before I start writing, but Ani DeFranco's Swan Dive is kind of my like life anthem for everything that I need to be
It's like your
excited
pump
by.
up.
It's my yeah.
No, I don't. I think just improvising. Even if it's just free, play the piano for 20, 30 minutes. That's always a good way to get into something with more direction,
Howard Stern.
Wow.
Talk radio. That's what
That's
keeps me.
music
That's
to
what
your
keeps
ears.
me alive. Yeah, talk radio keeps me alive.
What would you say in your career has been like the easiest thing for you to write, and what has been the hardest?
I scored a 2-hour silent film. That was insane. It's a lot of music.
So how did you go about that?
was just sprawling and kept getting longer and longer. So I just kept having to write more and more music. And I remember thinking like, I don't know if I can hear any more melodies ever. Yeah, that was a lot. I mean, it was fun, but it was like I felt like I didn't have any more music in me for like a second after that.
So much of my life involves massive, amazing pop stars that I can't really tell you any good stories because that would be like really mean of me.
Same here.
Talk off the record later.
You guys all want to hear them, don't you? I got some good ones. My best ones I can't tell either. Trust me, and they're really good. Well, one of the hardest experiences was writing the song for Pearl Harbor. There You'll Be. There was Jerry Bruckheimer, the producer, wanted it rewritten like 20 times.
Why?
He kind of, I don't know. He just wanted things changed, and I've done a lot of, work with him. But it was just, I don't know. It was really difficult to write it, the same song over and over. But ultimately it worked out, and so that's the hardest. What's the easiest? I don't know. This one came really easy. I'm Standing With You. That was, as far as writing the song. Is that what you meant, or the stories behind them?
No, it's just
journeys.
like how quickly something you came to you and you completed it. So
Yeah,
this
I
one
guess
was,
those are two examples. Definitely the hard one was that other one.
we won't speak of it again. So.
No, I loved how it came out, but it was like, being put through the ringer a bit. But it all worked out. He was probably right.
Scott, anything?
The easiest show I can think of was I worked on this cop show called Murder in the First with the late great Stephen Bochco, who's like one of the greatest TV producers of all time, and it was his final thing that he ever did. That might be part of the reason, but I don't know. He loved the first thing, and then he just never had any notes, and then like I did an entire season of television without one note. I mean, that's like I can't even describe
scary.
what that's like. That's like running through a battlefield where everyone's shooting at you and not getting shot. I mean, it was just the craziest thing ever. And I don't think he was phoning it in. I mean, he was really into it. He was just like, I don't know. He also only ever worked with one composer before, and that was Mike Post, who's one of the greatest guys of all time. So I don't know. It's just like, this is going to be a terrible situation. I'm filling the shoes of like this huge TV composer, and it went really smooth. And to me, the hardest gig ever is the gig that's about to happen. Like the anticipation in your brain, like in my mind, like the crazy emotional roller coaster that you go on. So you get a job, and that's the happiest you'll ever be.
And then you have to work. Yeah.
Then you have to work, and it's miserable, and there's moments of highs and lows, and then you finish the job, and that's the second happiest you'll ever be. But yeah, for me, it's every job when I look at it, it's like, what? I do this for a living. Like, I feel like I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, and I think that's good. I mean, I've been told that that's good and healthy. I don't know if people are just lying to me, but I think that's actually what you're supposed to feel. I've just come to accept it.
What's the strangest place where you've composed something or just like thought of a melody in your head and you're just like, I have to write this down right now?
I mean, it's definitely not PG-13 or even NC-17. So
There's so many things we can't talk about today.
I'm gonna. Anyone else want to jump in here?
I'm not talking either.
I don't know, just everywhere.
In a freezer. In a freezer.
In a freezer. I've,
in a toy chest.
Yeah, just like thinking you're hearing melodies and then realizing you wrote it like inside radio static or something like weird like that. That's happened. That's nice.
That's a good PC answer.
I have a weird experience that happens to me often where I'm dreaming and I'm hearing this amazing composition and I'm really depressed because I'm like, oh, that is so good. I wish I had written that. Then I wake up and I'm like, I did write that, and then it's gone.
I had that happen last night.
No, I mean that happens so, and then it's gone, and I'm like, and then I just tell myself, well, I'm sure it's in there somewhere.
I have to dream it again, and then
It's terrible. It's like this. Oh, it's such a bummer.
It happens all the fucking time.
And it was probably shit because I was dreaming that I thought it was good, but like,
But
Just
what
a
if it was
REM state
amazing?
score.
I'll never know.
It could have been amazing. Yeah, that happens I think that's very common with songwriters and composers. It's like happens all. It happened last night. I had a dream that I worked a lot on Camila Cabello's new album, and I had a dream that I was in the studio with her writing a song, and I was like, what is this song that's going to be the biggest song on the album? And then I woke up and I was like, oh yeah, that song doesn't exist, and I will never be able to write it. Yeah.
and you never have like a continuation, like it never comes back. So you just have to keep dreaming up a new one. So
I guess, or just give up.
lastly, what are some of your favorite songs or scores from movies?
I really like Under the Skin by Mika Levy. I think it's an amazing
It's
score.
really good.
It's so good.
Jackie scores also.
My favorite song from a movie she wrote. It's called "Don't Want to Miss a Thing,"
Oh, thank you. Wow.
Yeah.
performed by Aerosmith.
Thank you so much.
One of the greatest songs, one of the greatest.
I
vocal
didn't even know you
performances.
wrote that.
You're sitting next to like the greatest songwriter of all time.
I didn't know you wrote that
Come
song.
on, that's not true.
That's
thank-
actually that's
thank
actually
you.
factual. You are the greatest.
That's
songwriter of all
ridiculous.
time.
That is
I'm not-
ridiculous.
I'm not, but
I
thank
love
you
that
so much
So
for saying
modest.
it. But
Is that
thanks so much.
Armageddon?
Yes.
So much.
Yes.
But oh wow, thank you so much for saying that. Okay, can I say my favorite song
Yes.
from the movie is "To Sir with Love" from the movie "To Sir with Love." That is my all-time favorite. Isn't that the best? Isn't that the most beautiful song like ever written? So, and "Born Free." Yeah, songs that make you just cry.
Scott, what about you?
Score. My favorite score is "Catch Me If You Can" by John Williams. It's a nice movie, but the score is just like, what in the world? I think it's just the craziest. I think that's his middle finger to Mancini because he was his piano player personally. I mean, I think he respected him, but it's just like, whoa, if Mancini was on steroids. And then my favorite songs in films, not to be dorky, are the American Songbook, jazz standards, all those Days of Wine and Roses, all those great songs that are sort of forgotten, but you hear them playing in like airport
Will never
bars.
be forgotten.
Thank you. There will never be another you. Someday my prince will come. All those.
The man that
jazz
got
standards.
away.
Yeah, all those. That stuff is just. It's tough to beat.